What's up, guys? It's your boy, Barca Boy 103. Today we're going to be reacting to the Barcelona news over the past 48 hours. We do have a lot of topics to discuss. First up, we got a big report from ESPN about Barcelona's targets for the upcoming summer transfer window, and one of them is to reinforce the pivot position. The likes of usual Kimmich, Martin Zubimendi, Thiago Alcantara, Jorginho, Guido Rodriguez are all options for Barcelona in the summer to reinforce the pivot, and now down to Barcelona to decide what target they do want and who they will pursue, and come up with that list that they do plan on pursuing in the summer. But also the club do want to sign fullbacks in the summer as well, which of course will mean the end of both Sergi, Roberto, and Marcos Alonso, whose contracts will expire in the summer and will not be renewed. And the club do want to bring in 2 new fullbacks, where they could also bet in-house with Julian, Araujo, and Alex Valle. That is still yet to be determined. But of course, there are some other news in regards to the referees in La Liga that have been detrimental to Barcelona so far this season. We've dropped, I think, around 4 points in La Liga so far, and they've all been down to VAR decisions and controversial referee decisions on the pitch. And Laporta is very, very upset, to the point where he's going to take away some of the rights from La Liga in terms of the broadcasting, behind the scenes in the dressing room, halftime player thoughts and manager thoughts. Laporta's thinking about taking those away in protest of the broadcasting rights and also the favoritism that the cameras show on the pitch towards the other team in favor of Barcelona. We'll talk about that. But of course, the hot topic around Barcelona is the injury crisis around the club. We do have massive injury updates on Jules, Kounde, and Lamine Yamal, but we do have a new injury. Yesterday in Spain training, a Barcelona player was injured, and it is Xavi. Huge news in regards to his injury. And we also have some news on how the medical staff are going to be implementing some changes in the next few days to help prevent these injuries from coming about. But before we get into it, make sure you guys smash that like button down below. Let's try to get to 200 likes this video. Be very much appreciated. Also, if you're new, make sure you subscribe down below if you haven't already, and let's get into it. Let's start off with the transfer news over the past 48 hours. Now, we're first going to be discussing the big report coming in from ESPN from Samuel Marsden and Moses Lorenz. They've come out with a big report about Barcelona's summer transfer plans. They came out saying that Barcelona are searching the market for a defensive midfielder and 2 fullbacks as they step up their planning for next season. With the current contracts of Marcos Alonso and Sergi Roberto expiring next summer, the club is looking to improve their fullback positions. However, Barcelona's financial position means they can only target players who are either out of contract or are moving into the final years of their deals. And we're going to first talk about the fullbacks, and we're going to move on to the pivot position afterward. Now, I do want to remind you guys, we do have 2 very good fullbacks out on loan right now. Julian Araujo for right back at Las Palmas and Alex Valle at left back for Levante. So they could be the easy solution that will cost Barcelona no money whatsoever. It does depend, of course, on what targets they do come up with players that are going to be 1 year left on their deal, or players that have their contract expiring this summer. Nonetheless, I think, of course, it's a very important position, but it's also very positive news that Barcelona are not planning on renewing neither Marcos Alonso or Sergi Roberto's deal. We can all agree that their time at the club has come to an end, rightfully so. I think Roberto at the end of the season will get his send-off. Alonso will probably get a couple flowers and we'll move on with our lives. But again, this does not have to be a signing replacement. We do have some replacements for these 2 players in-house with Araujo and Alex Valle. So we'll wait and see what the club do decide. Again, it does depend on how they do out on loan. If they impress, right now they are doing well, but we're only a month and a few days in, so too early to tell. We'll have to see their end of season loan reports, and if they do well, they could be that easy solution. I wouldn't mind having Balde and Valle on the left and Araujo and Cancelo on the right. I think that's very strong. You have good coverage. Araujo's doing very well for Las Palmas. We're hearing that Valle is a very important player, and it's doing exponentially well at Levante in the 2nd division. So wait and see how things develop in the fullback position. But what's clear is that Barcelona do want to sign 2 new fullbacks, a right back and left back. They will not be renewing the contract of Alonso and Roberto, and they're looking for players that either have 1 year left on their deal or are becoming free agents. What looks to be the main priority for Barcelona in the upcoming summer transfer window is to reinforce the pivot position. The same thing, of course, that it was last summer. Now, continuing on that ESPN report, Samuel Marsden and Moses Lorenz from ESPN came out saying that Joshua Kimmich was offered to Barcelona in the summer. Barcelona could not afford a deal at the time, but continued to monitor the Germans' midfielder situation in the belief Bayern Munich could negotiate a transfer at the end of the campaign, with his contract expiring in 2025. Xavi is a big fan of Kimmich. Now, keep in mind, of course, from the first report, we're looking at players that are going to be coming up with 1 year left on their deal or will be free agents, and Kimmich does fit that mold. Now, Kimmich is coming, into the prime of his career. We're looking at he's 28, 29 years old. You're probably going to get 3 or 4 very good years out of him if you do end up signing him. What would be his price? I think Bayern Munich will probably want around 80 to 90 with 1 year left in his deal. I think Barcelona will probably be willing to pay around 50 or 60. But at that point, in my opinion, I'd rather get Zubimendi. I think Zubimendi fits the mold better. La Liga experience. I think he fits the philosophy that we want in the pivot. I think Kimmich is very much a powerhouse pivot, and he's a very versatile pivot. Very similar to like a Ilkay Gundogan signing that you come in, veteran experience. He'll level up the team, of course, but I don't think he's a natural pivot to what Barcelona are looking for. Now, also, Samuel Marsden and Moise Lorenz did come out with a few other names that Xavi does like in his report, and these 3 names are very, very interesting. First up, Thiago Alcantara. Again, he will be a free agent this summer. Guido Rodriguez, we talked about him a lot on the channel. He will be a free agent this summer. And also Jorginho of Arsenal, who I believe will also be a free agent, or will he have 1 year left in his deal? Somewhere around there. They all fit the mold. Now, so Jorginho is shite. I would not go anywhere near him. I think Guido Rodriguez is a decent option. I think Thiago is also a decent option as well, but poor Thiago cannot stay fit to save his life, so I wouldn't go anywhere near him. We're being linked with a lot of, not really but like players that are coming to the end of their careers or like are currently in their prime time. So Kimmich in his prime time, Thiago passed it. I think Guido for his level in his prime time. I think Jorginho probably just passed his prime at this moment. We're not being linked with any, youngsters or maybe pivots that can come in right now and do a job. We are being linked with them, but not from as strong as sources as Samuel Marsden and Moise Lorenz from ESPN. So for me, it's a bit worrying that we've now gone back-to-back summers with signing 30-plus-year-olds in the pivot. If we do end up signing one of these 3 options, or even Kimmich, 29-plus, like, it doesn't really bode well for me that we're gonna buy Romeo last summer, buy Kimmich, for example, this summer, then in 2 or 3 years time we're gonna have to buy another pivot because Romeo is gonna be done, or maybe Kimmich want to move on, or whatever the case may be. So it's a bit worrying in that sense, but like I said, we have been linked with some youngsters, but not from the best sources. Sport came out saying that Deco is determined to sign a pivot next summer. Arturo Vermeeren, Gabriel Moscardo, and also Altamira from Betis are among the candidates. Again, Moscardo, we know he's a very young player, up and coming. They want around 30 million Corinthians, would be a big risk. Vermeeren doing well with Real Antwerp. He's played against Barcelona. Again, Antwerp probably looking around 30 million. Altamira just joined Betis. If they're going to sell him next summer, I think again you're probably looking at 30 to 40 million euros. So a very, very expensive operation. And that's when the question comes in, because would I rather have Kimmich for 60 or Vermeeren for 30? That's where the big question comes in. Leave me your thoughts in the comments below what you would pick. I'd rather have, for me personally, I'd rather have Vermeeren and Moscardo for 60 million combined than Kimmich alone for 60 million. Although I would be happily take the signing of Kimmich. I think he's a fantastic player, but I just feel like we need someone that's going to mold into the pivot that we want, and we need someone long-term. I think Kimmich is very medium to short-term. Of course, we all know Romeo signing is very much a short-term deal as well. Now, Sport have also brought up another possible midfielder that could be coming in, and that is Alan Varela, who of course just joined Porto last summer from Boca Juniors, played very well against Barcelona in the Champions League. Sport came out saying the technical staff was impressed by the performance of Porto midfielder Alan Varela during the last 2 matches. His style suits the club, but his value is unlikely to suit the club's economic conditions. Of course, sky is blue, grass is green. Who else here is surprised? I think, again, decent player. We've seen a lot of players now from Argentina recently coming to Europe and doing very well. We saw, of course, Enzo Fernandez. We've seen now Valera. So options are there. And we, of course, have been linked with the player that has been on Barcelona's radar for about 2-3 years now, and that is, of course, Martin Zubimendi. With Sports saying that Xavi wants Barcelona to make an effort to sign Zubimendi next summer, Xavi still considers him a key player for the future. Again, last summer, Zubimendi didn't want to come to Barcelona because he didn't think he was ready, and he also wanted to play in the Champions League with La Real, his boyhood club. Fair enough. I think this summer, if we do make a strong interest in Zubimendi, I think he will push for the move. I would rather much spend 60 million release clause on Zubimendi than anywhere over 60 million for Kimmich. Again, Bayern Munich want 80 or 90, like what I think they want, and we want to pay around 60. I'd much rather get Zubimendi for 60. I think Zubimendi for 60 is better value than Kimmich for 80. That's just my personal opinion, but we haven't got any strong links yet with Zubimendi. Just, sport links, which we all know is just in the air. Now, we do have a pivot right now, and that is, of course, Oyer Romeo. We do have an update on his future with Luis Rojo from Marcus saying that confidence in Oyer Romeo remains intact and no pivot will be signed in January. As we all know, we cannot sign anyone in January apart from the registration of Vitor Roque, so we are stuck with Romeu for a season, and plus as a suitable replacement, we have to look in-house, whether it's Gundogan, Frenkie de Jong, Casado, Guido, even Gavi's name, we've heard Christensen's name, whatever the case may be. But in the summer is where the big question will come about. So we'll wait and see how things develop over the next few weeks. I think the club at some point will have their pivot list in the summer ready. Probably I think around March time is when they have like the concrete top 4, top 5-ish. Of course, we got that last summer. The Mirror came out with that top 7 list, I think around May time. I think by March we'll have the concrete top 3, top 4 strong names. Again, there are options out there. The club are looking at players who have 1 year left on their deal or are going to become a free agent this summer. And you could say right now in that category, the main target is Joshua Kimmich. Now, the only activity that Barcelona are expected in the January transfer window coming up is the registration of Vitor Roque. We're hearing reports, of course, that this week at some point our sporting director Deco will travel to Brazil to meet with Vitor Roque, see how he's doing recovering with his injury, and also reassure him that he will be joining in January. Now, Eduardo Romeu, who of course is the Barcelona's vice president, also the head of the economics section in regards to Barcelona, he's been doing an interview and he was asked on the registration of Vitor Roque in January, and he said, "We will see how this all ends. We have 2 windows in January and another one in June. It will depend on the technical side. As always, we will do everything we can to please the coach who is in charge." He does say that a lot, of course. He talked about other January signings. He said that, look, whatever the coach wants, we do our best to get what he needs. Which should be fair. He's been spot on. Everything that Xavi's asked for since his arrival, he's gotten pretty much everyone but Zubimendi last summer. Look, I think Vitor Roque will come in. I think as long as we activate the economic lever before December 31st, of course you can still activate it in mid-January, then bring in Roque afterwards. And the ideal scenario is to get the economic lever sorted out, get the funds in by December 31st. January 1st hits, register Vitor Roque right away, fly him over, medical presentation, all that lot, and get the deal done as soon as possible. But again, the vice president leaving the door a bit open here. Again, doesn't want to guarantee it. Again, the official statement that came out in the summer, they did say that Vitor Roque would arrive in June 2024. So we'll wait to see how things turn out. But I think there's very much confidence around the culés, around the Barcelona board, the sporting director, the player himself, and even the manager Xavi that Vitor Roque will arrive in January at some point. Let's now discuss some of the news surrounding Barcelona over the past 48 hours. Now, first, we do have an update on Barcelona's accounts in the sense that how much we do owe clubs around Europe. As we all know, over the past few years or many years, Barcelona paid their transfer fees in installment. And we do have a report coming in saying that Barcelona are still in debt to the following clubs. In the short term, 89 million euros we still owe clubs. In the long term, 118 million euros. Short-term ones that have to be payable within the next 12 months. We owe Ajax 16 million euros still for Frenkie de Jong. We owe 24 million euros to Leeds for Rafinha. We owe 13 million euros for City for Ferran Torres. We owe Bayern Munich 10 million for Robert Lewandowski, and we owe Sevilla 11 million for Jules Kounde. Then in the long term, which is probably going to be in the next 24 to 38 months, we owe Leeds another 38 million euros for Rafinha. We owe 26 million euros to Man City for Ferran Torres. We owe Bayern Munich 21 million euros for Lewandowski, and we owe Sevilla 24 million euros for Jules Kounde. But there's also the flip side where there are clubs out there that owe us money. In the short term, 49 million euros, and in the long term, 40 million euros, and some of those deals include Trincao from Sporting for 13 million euros, and Atletico Madrid do owe us still around 9 million euros for Antoine Griezmann. So we still have around 220 in total transfer fees that we still have to pay. To be honest, the fact that we're still paying for Frenkie de Jong is quite shocking. I mean, we did sign the man back in January 2019. If I'm not mistaken, and of course all these other 4 signings were under the new board, so it kind of makes sense to me. And again, this is not Barcelona broke, this is not Barcelona having financial worries. We of course agreed these deals with installments for a reason, and of course these will be paid out. We have Rafinha, I think we paid 60 million euro total, Ferran Torres 55 million euros total, Kounde 50 million total, and say for Lewandowski, I think for Lewandowski was 45 million euros. So of course it's going to be broken up over the next few years, and of course variables will be added in the case. So with Rafinha, you could say 38-24 that we haven't even paid anything yet for Rafinha's transfer. You have Ferran Torres 26-13. That means we barely paid anything yet for Ferran Torres. For Lewandowski, you have 21 and 10. So we probably played, only 15 million euros so far for Lewandowski. Then you have 24-11 for Kounde. Again, only played around 15 million euros for Kounde thus far. So in retrospect, what they've done so far, and again, if you sell on these assets, these installments are no longer needed. Of course, this installment payment will be passed down to the next club. So paying only 50 million euros for Kounde so far, for Lewandowski, for Ferran, nothing looks like for Rafinha, and about 55 million euros so far for Frankie de Jong, for I believe the 75 that we did agree with Ajax. So again, nothing new here, but watch out for the media saying that, oh, Barcelona's broke, stuff like that. It's not the case whatsoever. These are, of course, deals that we do installments, and every club in the world does this, just Barcelona being put in the limelight. Now, of course, the man behind the installment payments and transfer fees is Joan Laporta, and over the past few days, we have heard that Joan Laporta is very upset with La Liga. This is coming in from Tony Juan Marti from Sport, who's actually blocked me on Twitter recently. Shout out to him. I called him out for the Kounde reports and he's blocked me. What a guy. Anyways, he's come out saying that Barcelona are losing patience with small details, such as the fact that on TV they don't show replays of controversial plays, like the possible penalty on Christensen against Granada, or the fact that the cameras focus too much on Xavi. They think this is on purpose. There is outrage in Barcelona over the penalty not given for Christensen against Granada. Referee Soto Grando didn't even check the VAR when a Granada player was holding Christensen for around 4 seconds in the box. On TV, they only showed this replay once. Which, to be fair, is not wrong. I mean, the amount of times the camera is on Xavi is ridiculous. Whether we have a yellow card incident or it's a player controversial, we score, camera is always on Xavi. And again, when we have controversial decisions, we never get a replay. Similar to the Getafe match, we had a penalty shout at the end of the game for Gavi. They only showed 1 or 2 replays, and that's only because VAR was reviewing it. So he has a great point here. There also were reports saying that Barcelona may hold back on their broadcasting view for La Liga, in the sense that we let them in the changing room. We do halftime press conferences or thoughts. They may hold back on that a bit in protest for these claims. Again, this is Barcelona. Everyone's always against us. Again, everyone who works for La Liga, 95% of them are going to be Real Madrid fans. So this is the problem you have to put up with as a culé. And this has been going on for years and years, since the 70s, since Johan Cruyff was in the Barcelona lineup. So no surprises there. But again, Barcelona are big enough now and have enough repertoire, you could say, to fight back on these claims. So we'll wait and see how things turn out. Again, this is absolutely spot on. I mean, none of these claims are false whatsoever, but it's now down to Barcelona to put this pressure on La Liga to implement those changes. Now, the final topic that I wanted to discuss before I end off this video is to discuss the absolute madness injury crisis is happening at Barcelona. We're going to go through everything. I'll give you guys my thoughts and analysis and also all the updates. Now, let's first start off with the match against Granada, where we did suffer 2 injuries to Jules, Kounde, and Lamine Yamal. In the last video on Monday, I told you guys the injuries weren't too serious, according to the reports. They're coming out late the night on Sunday. But in the morning, of course, we got the bad news. Firstly, on Jules Kounde, the club released an official statement saying that tests carried out on Jules Kounde indicates that he has a left MCL sprain. He is out. His recovery will determine his availability. Then Tony Juan Marti came out saying that Jules Kounde will be out for 5 weeks, therefore he will 100% miss the Clásico. This is why I called him out on Twitter. I said to him, bro, you say that his injury was going to be not serious whatsoever. Wait and see, blah, blah, blah. You're teasing us, putting us on mental states, and he blocked me, so it is what it is. We live it rent-free in Tony Juan Marti's head. Massive blow for Barcelona. But I'm content with it because A, Kounde gets rest. B, the injury comes now, where 2 weeks of it is in the international break, which is good. Thirdly, our coverage in the center back position is very, very good. You have, of course, Inigo Martinez, Christensen. Let's hope Araujo survives Uruguay international duty. You have McAlfay. And, of course, you have Alonso, who can do a job as center back better than left back. Let's be honest. So, very, very disappointing. Of course, Kounde has been our best player this season, 100% without a shadow of a doubt. If you disagree with that, you're absolutely waffling. But again, 5 weeks, he'll be back around the beginning of November. Now with Lamine Yamal, we got the same thing. We got an official statement from the club saying that tests carried out have shown that Lamine Yamal has an injury in his left abductor. He is out for now, and his evaluation of the injury will mark his availability, but the player joins the Spanish national team, where he will also be evaluated by the medical services of the RFEF. Now, Candacera came out saying that Lamine Yamal will join the Spanish national team camp yesterday afternoon after his discomfort is not serious. That's what they say from the RFEF. Now, Barcelona, according to reports, were very disappointed that the RFEF did take Lamine Yamal and take him to Spain. Apparently, they want to see how he is. They might end up playing him. They have 2 big matches against Scotland and someone else to qualify for the Euros. I'm not quite too sure. But again, Barcelona very, very upset by this. Now we'll talk about Lamine Yamal's injury in just a few seconds. Javi Miguel from AES also confirmed the injury news. Of course, he's the main injury guy, none of this Tony Juan Marti crap. He's come out saying that Jules Kounde has agreed to sprain in his interlateral ligament left knee. He'll be out for a minimum of 4 weeks, and Lamine Yamal has an abductor contracture that will leave him out for around 5 days. And also this was confirmed by Gigentes. Roberto said that Lamine Yamal will be out for around 10 days and that he will not travel to Spain. So we got some controversial reports there. Again, Lamine Yamal will 100% be back after the international break. It was just whether or not Spain was going to take him and risk him. Now, Lamine Yamal did end up traveling to Spain. We saw the videos of him going out to Spain, and this sparked the question of why Spain were taking Lamine Yamal when he is injured. They have great coverage, of course, in the wing positions. Why you want to take this kid and risk him, who's actually currently injured and probably needs, you could say, the whole international break to get a full, speedy recovery. But there was reason behind it, and according to reports, Morocco are still hoping to convince Lamine Yamal to switch nationalities, and they will have now a few weeks to convince him to do so. Now, this report came from Jose Alvarez from El Chiringuito. He said that Spain wants to take Lamine Yamal because they have to. I think Lamine Yamal has to play one more game for Spain to not be able to switch his nationality anymore, and that's why Spain were worried. That's why they want to take him. Maybe he'll miss the first game, but second game just bring him on the sub last 10 minutes so he can play and he can no longer switch his nationality. Now, Morocco's federation did release an official statement saying this is not true. We're not tapping out Lamine Yamal. We don't, we're not talking to him at all. But again, if the reports are so strong to the point that the Moroccan Federation had to release a statement, I do believe there is some truth to it. But in the end, great news for Barcelona. Lamine Yamal returned. The next day, the club released an official statement saying that Lamine Yamal leaves the Spanish national team camp after being evaluated by the medical services. It has been decided they have not played the matches against Scotland and Norway. So Norway was the other match. In the end, Spain took him. They saw him saying, look, there's no chance of him recovering for either match, and they sent him back to Barcelona. So all's well there with Lamine Yamal. I think 100% he'll be fully fit, ready to go post-international break, unless, God forbid, he suffers a relapse. And again, Kounde will be out for a month. So now you probably think at this point, okay, we're all good now. We have no Frankie, no Rafinha, no Lewandowski, no Kounde, and no Lamine Yamal. You thought wrong, lads, because you know what? At Barcelona, things always get worse. Another Spanish international player for Barcelona was injured yesterday in training. We heard reports on Monday that he was only doing gym work, and then yesterday on Tuesday we heard reports he did suffer a knock in the training. And it was fucking Xavi. The news broke from Candacer. They came out saying that Xavi is injured. He picked up an injury in Spain's training session yesterday. Xavi felt a little discomfort during the training session, and it's still unclear if he's injured or not, and more tests will be done. Of course, these reports came out very, very late last night, around 10 p.m., so I think Xavi will do tests later on today to see how long he's injured. If he is injured, we're hearing reports that it might be just be a knock. Maybe he'll be out for Scotland, worst case scenario. We're hearing people say that he may be out for the entire international break. But stuff just doesn't go smoothly at Barcelona now, does it? Of course, this is a massive blow. I tweeted yesterday, with everyone injured, it's now Xavi's time to shine. I tweeted this sexy photo that I found of Xavi on Google of him, celebrating and stuff. Gets fucking injured the next day, man. This is absolutely unbelievable. If Xavi's injured, we have now 2 first-team fit midfielders in Gundogan and Romeo. Keep in mind, Gundogan's on international duty with Germany. He still has to play 2 games for them. So that's going to put us on road. We might come back from the international break with Oriol Romeo as our only fit first-team midfielder. Of course, you do have Fermin Lopez, but he's also on international duty with the Spain under-21, so everything's all over the place. Right now, Barcelona only have 4 fit first-team midfielders and attackers. Joao Felix, Ferran Torres, Ilkay Gundogan, and Oriol Romeo are the 4 only fit forwards and midfielders as things currently stand. That is wild. And we've got El Clasico coming up. I mean, it's so bad to the point that the Barcelona medical staff are increasing measures now. The medical staff have been getting a lot of stick lately. Look, Lamine Yamal, I guess his injury, you could blame the medical staff for not treating him well. Kounde, I mean, Xavi fell on him. You can't blame the medical staff. Lewandowski's injury was a straight slide tackle from a Porto player. You can't really blame the medical staff for that one. Rafinha went for a long ball and he stretched out his leg. You can't blame the medical staff for that. Frankie de Jong, I think, picked up a niggly injury. Maybe you could say that. And then, of course, for Pedri, it's the same thing. So I think the medical staff should take some criticism, but I don't think they should be blamed for every single injury that's been happening at Barcelona. Now, Javi Miguel from AES came out saying that Barcelona have intensified their injury control and prevention measures. Since Xavi's arrival, the club has changed many things, but they have not been enough to stop the injuries, and players now are expressly prohibited by contact to avoid any activities considered risky, like parachuting, mountaineering, or even riding a bicycle. Sporting activities outside the sports city, the Ciudad Esportiva, are also restricted, like playing basketball, paddle tennis, or even jogging at your own risk. Players are advised not to carry out activities outside the club's supervision. Many players have gyms at their home and private instructors to help them with their physical aspect, but the club stresses the work that they do already at the sports city is sufficient enough. Recovering after games is also advised under the club's supervision. So now the club have banned anything you do outside the Ciudad Esportiva in terms of physical activities. You can't do. You can't go play basketball with your friends, no paddle tennis, you can't go for a jog, you can't even work out in your gym. Everything you do physically will be done in the gym of Barcelona and be monitored by the medical staff, which I think is a good thing. Again, these injuries are coming way too thick and fast, and to key players as well. It does seem a bit of a high measure, but I think it has to be done this way. I think you do this maybe for a few months and you start to open a bit. Okay, go play basketball for a bit, because when you overload your muscles, of course you have a higher risk of injury. Ferran Torres, for example, he's probably working out, doing the training session and the gym work with the Barcelona first team. He's probably doing another double session by himself, trying to, get fit and of course keep his mind sharp, which is completely fine. But again, you are risking a higher chance of getting injured, and the club do need to stop this. I'm glad the measures are being put in place. Again, I think the medical staff do need some criticism, but not to the extent that they are receiving right now. I think every single injury, thinking, medical staff, I think it's a bit too much. They can't be really blamed for everything. They can't be blamed for Frankie de Jong playing paddle tennis, or Lewandowski playing basketball on his own time, or Pedri like to go out on his jog with his brother. They can't really be blamed for that. So we'll wait and see how things turn out. But again, this injury crisis at Barcelona is absolutely all over the place. We are expecting that currently there will be a few players returning very soon. Sport come out saying that after the international break, it is expected that Pedri can receive the medical discharge, and that both Rafinha and Lewandowski can recover for the Clásico on October 28th. I don't think Rafinha honestly would make a big impact in the Clásico. Of course, if we have no one, if we only have Ferran Torres, Joao Felix, of course I'll play Rafinha. But if Lamine Yamal is fit, plays against Shakhtar, gets some minutes, I think that's good enough. I think Lewandowski is absolutely key, and I think of course Pedri is absolutely instrumental at this point. So I think the closest right now, I think we had the reports from Javi Miguel saying the closest to returning right now is Pedri. Again, Lewandowski and Rafinha can make the Clásico. Frankie de Jong and Kounde have absolutely no chance. So wait and see how we recover from these injuries. Again, they've been really detrimental to Barcelona's season so far, but hopefully we take this as a learning curve, learn from it, and prevent it from happening in the future. So that was my reaction to the Barcelona news over the past 48 hours. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like, and of course leave me your thoughts down below in the comments on everything we discussed. But the main thing I want to firstly, of course, is your thoughts on the reinforcement in the pivot position. Who would you bring in? Secondly, on the fullback position, would you bring in bet in-house in Araujo and Valle? Would you go out and sign someone? Third, your thoughts on the referees and La Liga, and if Laporta does have a strong claim against the La Liga favoritism, you could say. And finally, your thoughts on the injury worries at Barcelona and how to prevent it. And of course, make sure you guys subscribe down below if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys next time on the channel. Take care and Forza Barca.